All right, everyone, we start off today by talking about the wonderful messaging of the Biden-Harris HQ page. This is an official campaign page for the Biden-Harris re-election bid, actually, and they shouldn't have made this post. Link in the description, not archived. It's literally just my reaction to a little video clip of Donald Trump that was being referred to by this page. Here's what they said. This was paraphrasing Trump. Look at Paris, look at London. They're no longer recognizable. I'm going to get myself into a lot of trouble, but you know what? That's the fact. They're no longer recognizable. We can't let that happen here. But he's right. Yeah, ain't he right? It reminds me of that Marty Collins song. You should look that up. I detect a little communism here. There's going to be some problems. Let's keep the blood here in our own country. And I agree with the basic messaging. Fuck the whole world. The United States should keep to its own in more ways than one. Don't need to start any dumb wars on credit or intervene in other countries. We've got plenty of resources of our own and an expansive alliance and trade network. It's not necessary to get involved in all this bullshit. By the way, I'm taking a lid day on bullshit, actually. And the other day wasn't the greatest of days. That's why I wish somebody had sent me some of that footage from the Harvard Solidarity Garden. I imagine it's going to be Chaz Garden 2.0. The footage is missing. Please get it to me. That would be funny as hell. They're accidentally campaigning for Donald Trump. And some Europeans will admit to this, by the way. I get to talk to people from all around the world. My own wife has been to Paris not that many years ago, not long before we met. And she said the same thing. Paris is turning into a shithole. It's no longer, at least in parts of Paris, it's no longer a glass of wine, a cigarette, and then the escargot and arts and stuff like that. That's not what it is. It's, homeless people everywhere and people that aren't even, Parisian, that have their own views. It's not the same as it was. It's not Madeline anymore, unfortunately. The American conception of what Paris is, in the nostalgic sense, you'd probably find maybe in some of the smaller cities in the Netherlands. There's definitely like a cafe culture. You go to Enschede, where I've got a place. You've got a cafe culture. You go into the center of town and there's a lot of alfresco dining and, people milling around and, town markets and stuff like that. Or some of the smaller towns, like you go to Franeker or something like that. You're not going to find it in Paris, though. You'll barely find it in Amsterdam, depending on, where you go. Amsterdam is a very cosmopolitan city, but the different components of it are definitely different. In the center, you're getting drunken tourists that want to go bang a hooker and smoke weed. That's basically all you're getting there. I've been through it a couple of times. No, I never went to the red light district, not interested, for various reasons. You don't want to get STDs. You don't want to get mugged. You don't want to get puked on by somebody from London. But that's basically all you get. If you want like the historical experience, you go to Old West. If you want the hipster experience, you go to Sloterdijk or possibly parts of Demon South. If you want if you want to see gentrification in action, you go to Amsterdam North. You'll see what was effectively a working class situation slowly being turned into the less successful banking class, so to speak. And if you want to see the successful banking class, you go to South. If you want cosmopolitan, what I would say is the best of Amsterdam, you go somewhere in East or Diemen North. That region is sort of my vibe, because then you can get good Indian cuisine or Moroccan cuisine or something like that. You get a little history sprinkled in, and it just looks the part. Just the sort of area that I like. But ain't he right, Donald Trump? Can you honestly say that Paris is better off now than 20 years ago? I think most Parisians would agree that's not the case. What about London? What about Hamburg or any of the Berlin or any of these other major cities? They're having problems. Now, this is mainly an urban issue, to be clear. When we're talking about the refugee/illegal crisis, when we're talking about the rise in crime, poverty, and stuff, a lot of it is happening more in urban areas. It doesn't, for instance, touch rural Friesland the same way that it's going to touch Amsterdam. Just like it doesn't touch Rutland, or at least Rutland town. The city's got some problems now. Not that it didn't already have a reputation in Vermont, along with Barrie and Brattleboro. Just saying, as a Vermonter, there was always some diciness. There are always some places that maybe you're hesitant to go through after dark. All right? Doesn't matter if it's just Vermonters there or if there are people from New York selling drugs. There were always some issues. But it's not going to touch that the same way that it's going to touch Chicago or San Francisco or Miami or a place like that. Simply a higher concentration of people thing. He's correct. They're accidentally campaigning for him. He's fundamentally right. And by the way, they're getting ratioed for a reason. There are liberals who understand that there are problems attendant with the current policies of the Biden administration. I've talked with them. I've talked with people that voted for Biden in 2020, and either because they didn't like Trump, for one reason or another, ideological or otherwise, or because they just liked Biden better, they liked what he said. I've met people who have soured on him. A number of them have messaged me, and I can look back through like what they post and stuff like that, and I can tell, is this just somebody giving me something to talk about, or is this genuine? And it's always genuine. It's somebody who had been making, like 5 years ago, posts that were liberal and saying, well, maybe they don't like Biden terribly much, but they're like, he's clearly the superior candidate, and I'm going to vote for him because I think he has better policies in mind than Orange Man. Some of these people do or do not or did have TDS as well. And then they say, well, I'm not voting for that bastard again. It seems to be a common theme, actually. Michael Avenatti, who's still in prison right now, who tried to gun for Trump and then got thrown in prison for a decade for fraud, actually. He's soured on Biden. He was one of his foremost proponents in the 2020 election. The Stormy Daniels lawyer, literally tied in with that hush money case that's ongoing literally right now with Alvin Bragg. That Michael Avenatti, the Basta TDS sufferer, he's now on the fence about who he's going to vote for. Well, I'm not so sure about voting for Joe Biden. I don't know. I really liked him back in 2020. He talked the talk, but he hasn't walked the walk. I mean, people are suffering. Nothing's better off. I think part of it is that Biden didn't pardon him, by the way. No, they're accidentally campaigning for Donald Trump. This is a ringing endorsement of him. He's being the realist, the adult in the room. He's willing to acknowledge that Western civilization is being denigrated by the policies of Western governments and bureaucrats, and that something should be done about it. The Democrats used to be the party of don't put your head in the sand. Like back in the Bush administration, Bush would just shout 9/11 and get a free hall pass to do whatever he wanted. Liberals pointed out, hey, things aren't actually going that well on the foreign stage. Things aren't necessarily going well domestically. There are attacks on the Constitution and et cetera, et cetera. They said, don't put your head in the sand. Don't simply shout Murica and say, well, because, we have to rally around the flag, we have to be patriotic by doing whatever the current administration wants us to do. They used to toe that line. As soon as Obama got in there, they completely abandoned it, and since then they've been nothing but sellouts. Especially under Biden, who literally was VP under Obama. They've been wagon circling. Stop putting your head in the fucking sand. Yes, things are getting worse for the average community in the Western world right now, partially as a result of diplomacy, partially the result of economic policies, partially the result of globalism writ large, and partially the result of mass migration and illegal immigration and things like that. And it's migrants and stuff like that. Depressing wages, causing more crime, etc. Yeah, I know the crime statistics show that illegals are less likely to commit crime. Bullshit. That's called lies, damn lies, and statistics. It happens to be fiddling around with the numbers and not acknowledging that prosecutors unfortunately have too wide-ranging discretion in whether they charge a person. And that a lot of those prosecutors were backed literally by George Soros. So naturally, if the person with the MAGA hat is in for theft, they're probably going to trial. If the person with the Palestinian flag is in, they're probably not going to trial. They get a slap on they get processed, and then they get released, and then they disappear. It's just the way it is. Ain't he right? That's about all. Peace out.